Welcome back to the Viki tutorial video series. My name is Tom Albany with Biostat Global Consulting. In this video, we will describe tabular output for weighted indicators. Many Viki indicators calculate weighted estimates of population prevalence. In fact, this is Viki's main task, to estimate the proportion of the target population who have been vaccinated and to summarize those proportions along with uncertainty in the estimates. This video gives an overview of the tabular output for those indicators. Other videos will cover other tabular output, that from unweighted indicators. As we look at some tabular output together, it will be helpful for you to have two documents handy: the Quick Reference Guide to Interpreting Viki Results and the Viki Users Guide. You may download both of these from the Documents section of the TechNet21 Viki Users Group website. If you have not already joined the Viki Users Group, take a moment to do so now because you will need to access some files there in order to follow today's video. You may have followed the instructions in earlier movies to download Viki Datasets and run Viki in order to generate what we are calling the District 20 dataset. If so, navigate now to the folder that holds that output. If you have not run Viki, you can download a spreadsheet holding tabular output from the TechNet21 users group. Go to Files and Tutorials and then download a zip file named tabular output for weighted indicators.zip. Unzip the contents and save the spreadsheet named ri_test_to.xlsx. We will be looking at the contents of that file today. Tabulated output is saved in a file that is named using the Viki_analysis_name, specified in Block B of the control program. Viki appends a suffix _to to that name. To in this instance stands for tabulated output. In this case, the user must have specified that the analysis name would be ri_test. The weighted indicators are meant to estimate a parameter that describes the population from which the sample was drawn. If the survey is free of important biases, then these are strong conclusions about the likely coverage among the population. Turn in the Quick Reference Guide to the section on indicator ri_coverage_01. This is the indicator that summarizes so-called crude evidence for vaccination. The word crude here means that the indicator gives credit for being vaccinated even if the dose was received either early or late. If there is any evidence at all that the child received the doses, then this indicator counts the child as vaccinated. You can read through the Quick Interpretation Guide or the User's Guide to learn which indicators are weighted. Now let's have a look at the Excel worksheet that summarizes ri_coverage_01 for District 20. Open the spreadsheet and select the tab named ri_coverage_011. Let's take a moment to get oriented to the worksheet. Viki output typically lists strata as rows and lists different summary statistics in different columns. We see here that the Viki analysis summarizes coverage for 3 strata: District 20 as a whole, and then 2 subgroups consisting of male children, boys, and female children, girls. We see also that there are many columns of output. Each dose in the survey is summarized by several columns. A guiding principle with weighted outcomes is that Viki always summarizes at the very least the point estimate and a two-sided 95% confidence interval. We might put those quantities in an English language sentence as follows. Based on the survey sample, we estimate that 97.6% of the children aged 12 to 23 months in District 20 have evidence of BCG vaccination on home-based records. Although 97.6 is the point estimate from the survey, we expect that figure could vary if we had drawn a similar sample from a different set of households. So the true population value could be slightly higher or slightly lower than 97.6. If the survey is free of important biases, we are 95% confident that the true population coverage figure falls somewhere between 93.9 and 99.1%. Some indicators use only these two summary statistics. We see here that BCG coverage from several sources of evidence are summarized in this way. BCG crude coverage by card, by history, meaning verbal recall of vaccination history, by SCAR, by card or history or SCAR. Each lists a point estimate and a two-sided 95% confidence interval for each stratum. In this toy example, the evidence comes solely from cards, so coverage by history and SCAR are 0%. But the final summary figure that summarizes all sources of evidence is labeled as BCG crude coverage, and it includes not only a two-sided confidence interval, but also a set of additional summary statistics. You have the two-sided 95% confidence interval, as well as a one-sided 95% lower confidence bound, or LCB, and a one-sided 95% upper confidence bound, or UCB. These one-sided bounds are useful for classifying coverage as being very likely to fall above or below a fixed threshold. We also have a design effect, which is abbreviated DEFF, an intra-cluster correlation coefficient, or ICC, N, which is the number of respondents used to calculate coverage, and a weighted N. The interpretation of the weighted N will vary depending on how the weights are calculated and scaled. For help interpreting these additional statistics with English language sentences, see the last section of the quick reference guide entitled Interpretation of Other Statistics. For crude coverage, we think of coverage by card, by SCAR, and by history as being intermediate outcomes, constituents of the main outcome, which is coverage by any source. It would be possible to list all of the summary statistics for intermediate outcomes also, but that would make the spreadsheet even wider than it already is. Note that as we scroll to the right, we see that 16 columns are involved in summarizing BCG coverage, which are columns B through Q. Moving further to the right, the following columns summarize coverage for the next dose in the single dose list, which is MCV. Again, intermediate outcomes are listed first with point estimates and confidence intervals, and then the main outcome is listed with the longer list of summary statistics. As you scroll even further to the right, you can see that other doses are summarized in a similar manner. At this time, the user cannot control the list of summary statistics produced for different outcomes. The Viki developers have set up the code to produce tables that they feel will be helpful, and the summary statistics are not directly under the control of the Viki user. A future video may describe how to change the Viki programs to suppress or expand this output. For now, it is fixed. The user can control which doses are summarized in a particular analysis run, and the user also has tremendous control over the way strata are listed. They can determine which strata and which order they are listed within. This control is described in the Viki User's Guide and will be the topic of several later videos in this series. If you want to summarize coverage in a table for a report, the default Viki tables are probably too wide to use. There are two approaches in order to address this. First, you can start with the Viki table and simply delete or hide the columns that you wish to exclude from your table. This is the easiest approach by far. Second, Viki produces strata datasets that hold these analysis results. You can import those datasets into Excel, or you can write a Stata program to read those datasets and then generate a summary table of your own design. One might ask, for an example like this with one district and two demographic subgroups, why not transpose the table and list the strata as columns and list the summary statistics in a long list of rows? Viki does not include an option to format the output in that manner, but you are welcome, of course, to manipulate the output table using Excel in any way you see fit. Take a few moments on your own to look at the tabular output for some of the other weighted indicators in this spreadsheet. Those for RI coverage 02, 03, and 04, as well as RI qual 01 and RI qual 07. If you need to generate a table that differs from those that Viki makes by default, post a question to the TechNet21 users group asking for assistance. To recap, weighted indicators are meant to provide a conclusion about likely vaccination coverage among the population from which the survey sample was drawn. Point estimates should be accompanied by two-sided confidence intervals to indicate their uncertainty due to sampling variability. Precisely which summary statistics you include in report tables will depend on what point you are trying to make. Feel free to post questions in the TechNet21 users group for help in interpreting Viki output. If this video was helpful, check out the companion videos on interpreting tabular output from unweighted indicators and those on interpreting graphical output. You can also click next on the player or on the thumbnail to the right of the screen to view the next video in the series. You can also click on the playlist thumbnail to select another video in the series. You will find links below this viewer to help you leave a comment or question, or to join the Viki users group. Download the Viki programs and users guide so that you can follow along if you've not already. You can also find a list of all available resources in this series and our recommendations to help you get the most from Viki. Thank you for watching.